Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna skip the preamble. I'm gonna skip the long intro this time. I have noticed an inverse relationship, the amount of time someone's been on YouTube and the amount of time that their intros take. Actually, that wouldn't be inverse. That would be the opposite of that. The longer you've been on YouTube, the longer your intros get. And I don't want that. I don't want you to have to sit through this. I want to read Romantasy books. I want to do it with all of you. Let's get into it. Y'all, the heat is getting to me. I really should move. I have started Lady of Darkness. That's the first book I decided to start with. I also just filmed my June wrap up in my hot ass car, and I'm quickly losing steam and brain power. So hopefully I can get out my thoughts and feelings on this 10% mark quickly. Normally I would give you a 20% update, but this book calls for a 10% update. It sure does. I decided to start with this one because I know that Erin from Booked and Busy enjoyed it. At least I'm pretty sure. I could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure she liked this book. I feel like I trust Erin, okay? Trusting her less now that I'm 10% in. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about this book. Let's talk about this book. This book's about a main character, Scarlet, and she, at the beginning of the book, is living at this manor house. She's vibing, having a good time, trying to avoid being married to people she doesn't want to be married to. We find out that she is a trained assassin, is not really doing assassiny things right at the moment. She's been assigned some tasks in the past by her boss, the Lord of Assassins, and she's just, no, I'm not really feeling it, my guy. And so he's like, okay, go live in the manor house, like with some people, go vibe, like go have a good time. She's like, okay, sounds good. Until he sends word that he has figured out who ordered the hit on her mom, right? She killed her mom's like actual murderer, like the actual assassin, but she doesn't know why her mom was killed or who actually did it, like who assigned the hit. And so she's going to listen to her boss and go find this person and kill them, okay? What an interesting premise. Like, what a good setup for a book. It kind of giving Throne of Glass? Yes, sure, it is. What's not giving Throne of Glass, though, is the what the fuck is happening? Okay, beginning of this book, right? We get introduction into this girl. We see her at the manor house. We've actually seen her kill her mom's assassin at the beginning of the book as well, which is nice, fun, delightful, with her two bestie girls. What's interesting to me is that she's chilling at the manor house. She knows she's gonna go kill this person. She doesn't know who the person is, really. Like, she's given a name, and she's like, I don't know who the fuck this is. What? I'll find him, though. I'll find him and I'll kill him. Great, dandy. While she's there, like, while she's, like, chilling in the stables talking to her, like, guy friend, some random, like, member of the King's Guard or, like, commander of an army, I'm not really sure. He's fancy. He knows his shit, right? She starts, like, having, like, verbal sparring with him. She's like, who the fuck are you? Why are you here? His name is Riker, by the way. Yes. Like the prison. And what's confusing to me is that we don't know why this man is initially here at the manor house. It kind of seems like he's there on official business or something, but instead he gets caught up fighting Scarlet. She's like, hey, let's spar. I don't know who the fuck you are. Why are you here? And he's like, you don't want to do this. And she's like, I certainly do. And so she tries to like fight this fucking guy who she doesn't know. After a couple of spars with him, after a couple of fights, he's like, you know what? I will train you. Cause she like asks him at the beginning of their fighting, like, oh, you should train me, you're good at this. And then eventually he agrees, and now they're training. I'm like, what are you training for? Why was he there in the first place? None of this shit makes any sense. And that's what I want to say in this 10% mark of this book. Nothing makes any sense. I don't understand character motivations. I mean, I guess, yeah, I would want to find who killed my mom too. Other than that, I don't really understand this girl's motivations. I don't really understand this world. She is trained as an assassin, but also women aren't supposed to be fighters in this world. She has to hide her skills. Why did this guy agree to train her? Why was he there in the first place? I just want to know why he was there. I want to know why he was there. Am I missing something? Am I a bad reader? I don't think that's true though, because I was reading some sentences over again as I was reading this book. A lot of the sentences are just not strung together very well, I think is what I would like to say about this book so far. I mean, I'm intrigued. I want to keep going. I want to know who these other little assassin bitches are, because Scarlet didn't work alone to kill her mom's hired killer. So who are these other chicks, right? I want to know who the Lord of Assassins is. Is he sexy? Hopefully she doesn't end up with this Riker character. He's boring as fuck. Not sexy. Not a good name either. I think his last name's like Renfall or something. I don't like the alliteration. I'm nitpicking. I'm gonna go read more. I'll be back in a little bit. Sorry for the ambient smacking. If you're new here, Pepper is always with me while he eats because he won't eat if I'm not here. Wait, I'm 20% into Lady of Darkness. I think I'm enjoying it. I am kind of understanding what's going on a little bit more. And I think what's challenging about this is, like, I don't know what constitutes a spoiler because it's the first book in a series. And I feel like all of the stuff that's being revealed could be in the synopsis of the book. I'm kind of too lazy to go and see what the synopsis of the book is. So I'm going to try to keep it like condensed, brief, not tell you too much. Essentially, we figure out that Riker has been living a double life and or has like a different identity. It's kind of giving like Aelin, Selena vibes. We find out his other identity, kind of what's going on with him, and a little bit more about his secrets. I still, again, don't really know why he was at the manor house the day that he was. That still has not been revealed. Maybe he was just trying to seek out Scarlet. We have figured out a little bit more about Scarlet and her like past in history. We know that her mom was murdered. We don't really know anything about her mom besides the fact that she was a healer, and we kind of think we know potentially who would want it out for her mom. Things are being revealed to us. We also have like more questions, I think, than answers, but we're heading in a direction that I think that I enjoy. Like magical elements of the story are coming together a lot quicker than something like Throne of Glass, which I personally really enjoy. We know that there are fae like pretty early on in the story. We are getting into contact with some fae already, even though fae are like not supposed to be in this particular land, like they've been banned from this land, and or like there is a full shield or something put up to where like the fae can't enter these lands, but apparently they're here, which I think makes for an interesting story. It's kind of giving like any other fantasy romance I've ever read, but it is fairly well told. Like the sentence structure is confusing me at times, but the way that things are executed and the direction we're heading I think is interesting. What's also interesting is that I asked Olivia today, aka Queen of Fantasy, if she had read this book or the series, because I did confirm that Erin has read these books and did enjoy them, and I was curious if Olivia had read them and what her thoughts were. And she said she had not read this series and that Erin says that the series is dark. I was not expecting that. So, I mean, we're not there yet, but apparently the ending of this book is potentially dark. I didn't read any of the content or trigger warnings, so like we'll see what that entailed. I'm a little nervy. I will also say there's a lot of cussing in this book, which doesn't bother me as someone who says fuck a lot. I mean, I'm going to say fuck in this vlog, I'm sure, if I haven't already. I wasn't really expecting that considering some of the language usage paired with it. It's not that they didn't say curse words back in the olden days. Some of the language usage other than fuck, it just feels a little like incongruous, and I use that word a lot, but it fits often when I talk about books, like when things just don't quite match up. I think I like it. I am curious. I think we just found out the identity of the third wraith, because Scarlet has like two sisters in arms, sisters who like murder people, because she was obviously trained up as an assassin. We learned the identity of the third one, and I'm wondering if there was like a falling out, because we have not like spoken her name very often, but we do like learn her identity in this like flashback that I just saw. We also know that our heroine has these like fevers that she takes a tonic for at night. I say fevers, I mean she just takes a tonic at night. It's very much giving Shrek. Has anyone ever like made that connection? Known as taking her potion so she like doesn't turn into an ogre at night. I really wish that would be the case for this one. It would be so much more fun. I'm having a good time still. I'll update you probably at the 50% mark. I can't really see anything like super crazy happening between now and then. And frankly, I want to take a little bath. I had my bar class earlier today and I'm sweaty and I want to sweat out more in the bath. You know what I mean? Just really cleanse my sins and my dirt. Wish me luck. I'm gonna bring my not my maxi pad Kindle that I read on into the bath. I'm just gonna bring my phone. Look at this boring ass phone case. I have a cute one coming soon, and if it comes in this vlog I'll show you. Anyway, I'll be back. Did I mention that I'm currently undergoing a house renovation, a bathroom renovation specifically? Not totally relevant to this video, but it does explain why pretty much all of the clips for this video are being filmed right here. Hope you don't mind. Let's talk about my final thoughts and feelings on Lady of Darkness so we can move on to Heartless Hunter. I love that title. I think it's really fun. I like the cover of the book. Didn't realize it was going to be YA, but that's fine. I've heard good things, so I'm excited about it. Lady of Darkness is one that I have complicated feelings about. I can't tell if this one took me 3 days to get through because it was boring and I was bored at parts, or if it's just because I'm having a hard time reading in general right now. I wouldn't have any way to prove that because I wasn't reading anything else during that time period except for this book. But let's start with my 50% and onward thoughts, and then we can kind of talk about overall thoughts, okay? The last 50% of this book was both good and bad. I would say from like the 50 to 70% mark. I felt like the book had a lot of lulls. I think that a lot of the conversations and the lack of conversations had, especially between Riker and Scarlet, were kind of frustrating. It felt like we were repeating a lot of the same things over and over again. I feel like some of the flashbacks that we got were kind of unnecessary. I think the point was to like flesh out character relationships, especially between Scarlet and some of the people she's been like romantically involved with or had some like trauma with, really understanding someone's background. But I don't think a lot of the flashbacks were honestly needed. I don't think they really helped the story that much, especially, is it Cassian or whatever? Like especially his backstory, like I didn't care that much. That being said, from the 70% mark on, things did start picking up and the plot definitely went in a direction that I was expecting, but still had a lot of like pleasing twists and turns. I was a little uncertain of like where this book would leave off. I could tell what direction we were heading in. I didn't know what point in that journey we would hit, and it definitely leaves off on a cliffhanger. We're definitely moving to new locations. We're probably going to meet new people and be introduced to new ideas. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, I would say, by some of the reveals that happened. There were two reveals that I wasn't expecting. One that was like being led up to that I think all of us kind of could see coming, but two that I just honestly didn't really expect, and I appreciated that there were still surprises there. I don't think either of them were outside of the realm of possibility for things that you could guess. I think a lot of people will probably guess some of these things, especially if you read a lot of like Romantasy. That didn't make them any less pleasing as a reader, and I definitely think it makes the relationship between Scarlett and Riker a little bit more interesting going into book 2, which I may or may not be reading. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but I'm intrigued, I guess, enough with the series. But I guess when I think about my overall thoughts about this book, I think I'm kind of really stuck on the fact that the middle part of this book lagged so much, and I just don't ultimately know if I like the way this book was written. The beginning sentence structure, like, you know, with the first few chapters was kind of challenging for me. I feel like there was a lot of confusion there. I feel like there were still loose threads. Again, like, why was he there in the first place? Was it just to look for her? I don't know. I feel like there were just like a couple of pieces missing for me, and or a lot of time spent on a lot of boring things. I kind of wish the book had been condensed just a little bit, and or we could have gotten to a farther place in the story, because we left off on a great cliffhanger, but I don't know that we needed to like wait that long to get to that point, if that makes sense. So this is a really tough one. I appreciated some things, I didn't love other things. I will say, I think this book in particular is the most similar to Throne of Glass that I have ever read, and I know a lot of people hate when people make comparisons to Sarah J. Maas. She's not the only romantic writer out there. I get that, but I think it's a good benchmark for a lot of us, and I think that if you are looking for comparable books, like, it's nice to have a comparison. In this case, I would say this book is similar in not only the vibe and overall feeling of the book, but also similar character relationships and character dynamics. It's not the exact same. You're not going to be bored if you read this one. And so in that case, I do think it's a pretty good one to pick up if you liked Throne of Glass and maybe like ACOTAR didn't totally work for you. I think that this might be kind of up your alley. The only other thing I would say is that I kind of wish that Riker wasn't being set up to be like the hero in the story. I think I've already mentioned that. I was kind of unsure, like, oh, is he going to be like Endgame? I'm pretty sure from what we know that it is going to be Endgame with them, but I'm wondering like how many books are actually in the series? Like, how long am I going to have to read about these two characters in particular? Not that I don't like Scarlett, because we haven't really gotten to know much of Scarlett's power, shall we say, and I'm curious about that. Yeah, it looks like it's a 5-book series, and I'm pretty sure the series is finished, yeah, which is nice. I just feel like that's a long time for us to read about characters getting together. I don't know, like, am I gonna really care about their journey? I do prefer a little bit more tension, I think, in my romance. Like, I don't think this is the best romance out there, but I think romances in Throne of Glass aren't that great either. So, like, your mileage may vary. I do hope we get more from the side characters, too. I feel like in the first Throne of Glass book, it was very, like, Selena-centered, that we started getting more POVs from other characters and or started to understand them more. And I hope that happens as the series carries on, because there are characters I'm interested in. Is it Cassius? I think he's kind of cool, so I don't know. I think I would rate this one between 3 and 4 stars. I think if I hadn't been so bored in the middle, I could probably give this 4 stars. It just, like, it's not perfect for me. I don't think the writing connected with me like I wanted it to, but it's honestly still a really solid romantasy book, and I'm really glad that I picked this one up. So Aaron's taste stands up. It sure does. So I'm glad that I picked this one up. Not that it's like an Aaron taste test or anything, but it's weird. I trust Aaron's judgment even if we don't always have the same taste in books, right? She's got strong opinions, and I can appreciate that. So moving on to Heartless Hunter. I have the audiobook of this, which is exciting. I am wondering if like switching formats is going to be more exciting for me and get me more engaged. This is one that I would say that I'm the least interested in of all of the books too, which again, I think the audiobook will help with. I am saving, which one am I reading? Oh, When the Moon Hatched, for tomorrow. That one I've heard so many good things about, and I know absolutely nothing about it. Granted, I didn't really know anything about any of these books, so I think that's giving me really nice reading experience. I kind of love going into books not knowing what the fuck's going on. What book was I reading recently? I remember being like, oh my god, what? Oh, Novel Love Story, or A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I didn't read the synopsis for that one, and when the like plot on the back of the fucking book came up in the book, I was like, oh my god, what a crazy idea. Had I read that but back of it, like, it wouldn't have been that crazy, but I think it makes for a better reading experience is all I'm saying. Okay, I'm gonna go read, and I'm gonna try to get this done tonight, so buckle up, baby. We're going downstairs and we're gonna hang out and hopefully have a good time with this one.
The backdrop in here is kind of giving Patrick Bateman, but we will persist and chat about Heartless Hunter, shall we? I'm digging this, y'all. This is a very different book
Then the last one, I don't know if it's for sure YA. It's labeled as YA on Goodreads, and this author has only ever written YA, so I'm assuming that's what it is. But it's available on KU, and audiobook is fantastic. Story is fast moving. There's not a lot of like world building, but I'm not upset about it. Essentially, the plot, the vibe of the story is that our heroine is a witch who is trying to help other witches not get taken, I suppose, by witch hunters. She has to give up her grandmother at the beginning of the story. Like, there's been rumors swirling that her grandma is a witch, and to prevent both of them from being murdered, her grandma's like, hey, you need to like turn me in, so no one suspects that you are a witch. Actually, I'm not even sure like knew she was a witch ahead of time, but anyway, she has to give up her grandma. This has lit a fire under her ass to help other witches, but in her like day-to-day life, her like cover is that she is a rich socialite who's inherited a bunch of wealth from her grandma, which she was able to keep because she ratted her out. And she is kind of vapid, kind of into clothes, like kind of just vibing. Little do they know, she is it the Red Moth or whatever? She is like the resistance. And I'm digging that. The hero is obviously working for the other side. He is the most notorious witch killer, stoic and a little grumpy, and it's giving what I needed Divine Rivals to give, honestly. The enemies to lovers realness is real. I don't want to say beautiful writing, but yeah, it's beautiful writing. It's like perfect for what it needs to be. I feel like I know where I'm at, if that makes sense. Like, I can picture the world. It's being described pretty beautifully from the beginning. I was like, oh, this is different from what I was just reading in Lady of Darkness, but it's not like too flowery as Divine Rivals was. No, it's kind of perfect. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm kind of interested in this. Our heroine does need to marry soon. People are kind of on her case about like being unmarried, and to like kind of maintain her position in society, she needs to marry. Also, I can see myself in the mirror and my posture is abysmal, but we're just gonna ignore that. She needs to marry, and I think she's probably going to end up married to this witch hunter guy, and I think that could be kind of a sexy little pairing, and I'm kind of very excited actually to see what that ends up looking like. They've set the characters up so well. Like, it's not the most inventive story ever. It's not like this is a crazy dynamic we've never read before, but it's a tried and true one executed very well. And I'm into that. Like, I don't need anything wildly unique when it comes to my romantasy. I just want it to hit. And I think y'all feel the same way, maybe? I don't know. I know a lot of people really want originality. And yeah, we don't want all the books that we read to be like Sarah J. Maas ripoffs. I get that. But I think a lot of us, when we go into reading romantasy, it's like we want a specific vibe. I also think that's why there's been so much like Draco, Hermione sort of fan fiction being read by people. It's like we're looking for specific dynamics that can't really be pulled off in a setting other than fantasy, right? Enemies to lovers. Like, you can't really have enemies in real life. I mean, you can, I guess, if you're in like the fucking mob. But otherwise, it's just someone who's kind of a dick. Fantasy, you can actually pull that off. So anyway, vibing, loving it, having a great time. I'm gonna get 50% in tonight. Well, I'm gonna finish the whole thing tonight, frankly, but I'll update you one more time tonight, and then I'll tell you my final thoughts tomorrow. All right, so I hit the 50% mark in this book, and I'm still enjoying it. I wouldn't say that my thoughts have really changed since I last talked to y'all, which is a little disappointing because every time I do an update, I want to be able to give you like new and fresh information. The only thing I can really say is that things are unfolding differently than I expected, but it's not unenjoyable. I'm kind of enjoying Rune's like scheming, just how she is trying to like live out her dreams, and I also am, well, dreams, how she's trying to like stay alive, basically. I'm also enjoying our hero, and his backstory is definitely interesting, and I wasn't expecting him to have as much complexity as he does, considering there's not a lot of like setup for this world. I wasn't expecting there to be a ton of care taken with why he is the way he is and kind of what he's been through, but he like grew up in poverty for most of his life, or at least around poverty. His parents got like, I guess, I don't want to say like rose through the ranks, but they became like the royal tailors or like dressmakers for the crown many years ago before they both passed away. His life changed from there. He is like making dresses for the heroine. That's like how he's trying to woo her. He's suspicious of her and thinks that she is the Crimson Moth or whatever, which she is obviously, but his way of trying to like infiltrate and like understand her and like what's going on, I think is interesting. And just like his backstory, I think is interesting too. It's like he doesn't seem to have a lot of trepidation with trying to come after her, coming after Rune that is, but also has a complicated past, which I think makes his actions interesting. I also kind of to mention that there is sort of like a brothers situation going on. I don't know why I'm blanking on the hero's name right now, but his brother Alex is Rune's best friend, and he seems to be pretty enamored with her. I don't know if it's romantic, but I know that our hero is like hesitant to go after Rune at the beginning because he's like, I don't really want to like go after my brother's girl, even if they're not like together. Yeah, I also am liking there's actual conversations being had too between Rune and Evil Man, which I like. And you might ask yourself, wait, how is that happening? Well, it's because he is trying to like woo her almost, and she is trying to woo him to like take him off her scent or like get him off her scent. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know. It's a fun time. I'm gonna keep reading and I'll update you on my final thoughts tomorrow. All right, guys, we have 2 bars of battery. I'm in my car. I just went to Target, did a little shopping, and actually have a haul over on the vlog channel. It's not up yet. It'll be up on Tuesday. You're seeing this on a Sunday. I finished Heartless Hunter, and it was pretty fucking great. I loved this. It is YA question mark. There's some intimacy. There's some intimacy I was not expecting, I will say. I liked this, though. I thought that the pacing never let up, which was so fun. It was reminiscent of quite a few things, kind of like Divine Rivals. That one series by Shelby Mahurin, Serpent and Dove, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. It reminds me of like Raylo fanfiction. It's just a good time. It's fun. It's a dynamic that I think a lot of people will enjoy, and I would recommend this. I genuinely would. Again, it's not going to be the most groundbreaking plot, so if that's like what you're looking for in a romantasy, sorry, this isn't that, but it is really fun. The twists at the end I didn't necessarily see coming, especially like this really big reveal that happens. I loved it. I thought it was fun. And I think this is only a duology, so I would definitely pick up the second book. I think it comes out in like February of next year. This was a lot of fun, and I probably would not have picked this up on my own had it not been for this video, because I don't know what it is about romantasy, y'all. There are some amazing creators on YouTube specifically who read so much romantasy. Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader comes to mind. Just don't seem to pick these up, which is crazy because I love romance and I do like fantasy. Fantasy for some reason and romantasy, I just like, I don't always gravitate towards it because it's so much of a time suck. It's like an investment, these 500+ page books, these series, because it's like if I get into one book, I've got to continue the rest of the series. But I need to start doing this more often because I'm having a whole lot of fun. If that like was not evident in this video, like I'm genuinely having so much fun, and this is like the palate cleanser I feel like I needed. So yeah, this is a good book. I think I would rate this like 4 stars. It was not perfect. I wanted maybe a little bit more longing. Here's the thing. It's hard to strike the balance between characters getting to know each other, like good character development, relationship development, and then also that yearning, that longing. It's hard to juxtapose those sometimes. You know, if we get the characters to know each other too well, sometimes the yearning doesn't necessarily take place in the way that I want it to. I wish that the like physical stuff had maybe been drawn out a little bit longer, but got a lot of good setup for the second book, and I think things are gonna get really fucking interesting. Really interesting. It does the like classic fantasy thing. It's like, I don't know if this is a spoiler to say this. I'm gonna put a spoiler alert just in case this is a spoiler to some people, but it does that classic fantasy book thing where you start leading up to a romance, like you start leading up to this idea of these two people being together. There's a reveal that happens, or like something bad happens at the end of the first book. Oh, okay, so this is the love interest. It's probably going to be the person that this person ends up with, but they're gonna have to overcome some shit in the second book for that to happen, right? That happens in this book. It happened in the first book that I read too. As well. I don't think that's a spoiler to say, but maybe it is to some people. Fun times to be had by all being me. Okay, let's move on to When the Moon Hatched. I have the audiobook version of this again. Pro tip, if you don't already know this, I feel like a lot of people probably do, but whenever you use Kindle Unlimited, if you check out a book, you're using desktop, because I think that's kind of the only, no, I know you could do it on desktop. I'm not sure if this applies to Kindle. It probably does, like if you do it within the app, but Kindle Unlimited, you select a book, put it in your library, it offers you the audiobook at a very discounted rate, normally around $7, say between $7 and $12, which is a lot lower than the going rate for audiobooks, but only when you're like on that checkout screen. Why, I don't know. So sometimes if I like don't think I want the audiobook, I'll check out the book and then I'll be like, fuck, I have to return this book to Kindle Unlimited to like get the audiobook. Anyway, you can get an audiobook at a discounted rate if you do that. You're probably all gonna be in the comments like, Chandler, we already knew that, and also like there's a way to get the audiobook after you've checked it out or whatever, and you're probably right, but I like that. That's like how I save money on audiobooks on occasion. Granted, I don't often buy them. I normally get them from Libby, but every once in a while when I'm feeling lazy, I treat myself to audiobook for Kindle Unlimited. I'm gonna go home and read. It's a 6-hour book, like 6 hours at 3 times speed, as in this is like a 20-hour audiobook. So pray for me. That math doesn't add up. We don't need to talk about it, okay? But I'm excited, I think. This is one that I know people enjoy, but I also know absolutely nothing about. And when I looked on the Goodreads page today, I saw the word dragons, which has my hackles fully up. Just because I don't want this to be like Fourth Wing Part 2, you know what I mean? Or like, honestly, it'd actually probably be better if it was like Fourth Wing Light. Fourth Wing wasn't for me. This might be. This book sucks. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I was so excited for this one. I was like, surely this is going to be so good. So many people have talked about it. I feel like I keep hearing rave reviews, even though I didn't know what the book was about. I think the reason I didn't know what the book was about is because it's confusing as fuck. Painfully confusing. And I posted a plea to my Instagram community, and I was like, hey, please, if you've read this, DM me. I need to ask you questions about this because there's just things I have questions on and I'm confused. I had a couple of people help me, but even they said I still didn't know what the fuck was going on. And so I am being led to believe that I'm not that stupid. This book is just hard to understand and the world building is non-existent. So from what I've gathered, our main character, I don't know if her name is Rave or Reeve, she is trying to kill people at the beginning of the book. She is a part of a resistance group and she's pretending that she has no elemental magic, that she is a null. And yeah, she's killing people who are like abusers and shitty. She gets arrested and tortured and is going to be put to death, I guess, is kind of where I'm at now. There's also dragons that are moons. This is what I'm failing to understand, my friends. I am genuinely perplexed at the magic system here. It has not been explained to us, except once upon a time there were gods, they had elemental magic, and there were also dragons, okay? Once the gods went away, the dragons became moons. There are moons in the sky. And I guess the dragons are like dropping to Earth now at this point. They're coming back, you know, from the sky. People on Earth have elemental magic. I don't understand the politics of the world though. Why is our heroine a part of a resistance? What's the resistance for? I don't understand. I don't know if I'm ever going to understand. So I'm just like being led with this plot. I think we've been introduced to the hero at this point. He is the king, maybe, and I think maybe his brother wants her dead. He doesn't want her dead. He's grumpy and he's going through some shit. What he's going through, I don't know. We're getting lots of little vignettes from people who I don't know, kind of little like interspersed chapters. If you've ever read The Way of Kings, you know what I'm talking about, like chapters from people that aren't really in the story. So fucking confused, y'all. Confused, and I'm pretty ugly right now, and I'm upset because this is a long book and I was fully expecting to be totally into this. The writing at the beginning got me excited. I was like, wow, this prologue, like this is some rich world building and, you know, dragons and gods and okay, cool. It's not cool though, it is the thing. It's like the rest of the story is not so cool. And I'm wondering like if there's withholding for a reason, but it's giving Fourth Wing vibes in the sense that like you don't really get world building, and I think it's kind of essential. And maybe at the end of the book we're gonna get some shit. I'm gonna be upset that I listened to 7 hours of an audiobook and didn't know anything until the very end. That's just not fun for a reader. I'm just gonna say it. I just don't think it's fun for a reader. And now I'm upset, okay? I'm gonna keep reading. I'll get to 50%. I'll let you know how I'm feeling. Super glue my fingernail back together and just like pray that the rest of this book is less shitty. Alright, now this bitch is going on fucking side quests. And I don't mean me, I mean the bitch in the book. This is still not good. And it's still confusing. I'm a little perplexed because I was trying to figure out more about this book by Googling, came across this website, and I thought it was going to give me answers. It did not give me answers, but it did tell me that this book didn't have smut. And that, my friends, is false. That is, in fact, false. Our heroine, I guess, like, escapes from being tortured. Her king, I guess? Is he a king? I feel like the synopsis says this book's about a king. I can't remember his name. It starts with a K. They run away together, and there's dragons and shit, and they're in some sort of, like, hut. They can't fight their attraction for each other, and we hear the word cock said a lot. And you know, it's not my least favorite word. I'm gonna be honest. I know some people are sensitive to it. I don't hate it. It was just a lot of cock talk, if you will. She goes away from him. She runs away, I think, and gets caught up with these people who seem kind of like primitive almost, and this guy is like, I'm gonna marry you and put a baby in you or some shit. I don't fucking know. I'm confused. I'm perplexed. Mr. Long, tan, and handsome, name starts with the K, is like there and gonna save her. What's with the side quests? What in the Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus is going on here? I'm not happy with it. I never thought it would come to this, you know? I never thought that, I mean, I didn't expect it for this book. I always expect to be slightly displeased with things, but I've been sold a lie. All right, so I woke up this morning and asked God, if you're up there, if you can hear me, please give me a sign. And my AirPods were dead, and I took that as a sign that I should DNF the fuck out of this book. This sucks. Like, this is not a good book, and I'm absolutely astounded at the hype that this is getting. Are dragons just some sort of, like, balm to the soul? Are these some sort of, like, post-pandemic thing that just makes the girls go crazy? I don't know, and I would love to know. Like, someone please let me know in the comments why you enjoyed this book, because so many people replied to my story that they didn't enjoy this book, and I feel like I've been cheated and lied to. It's like everybody publicly says they like it, and then behind closed doors they're all laughing at me because this is not a good book. I really tried to enjoy this. I really tried to get into it. I don't feel like I need to like wax on about what didn't work about this for me, because I've already told you that in the last couple of clips. The lack of world building is crazy. The amnesia storyline that comes in, don't give a fuck if that's a spoiler, is also not my thing. Just felt lost pretty much the entire time that I was listening, and I joke often about being stupid, but I am not a stupid person. Sit through this and feel stupid. It's just not an enjoyable experience. Like, editors vendors need to ask their authors, hey, do you want your reader to feel stupid? And or just like raise that question like, hey, your reader is not meant to feel stupid while reading, so like mayhaps you should do a little bit more world building. I don't know. This was not it. I think someone who can articulate that much better than me is Monty. I will leave a link to his Goodreads review in the description. I don't always agree with Monty, but whenever we don't like the same book, he always nails his explanations. We actually tend to have fairly similar opinions on most books, but I'll just leave his link in the description because he fucking nailed it. It's just not good. It was not a good book. And you know, what a wild ride, because the books that I thought were going to be my favorite weren't, and the book that I didn't give a shit about reading I think is probably the best of the whole video. If you haven't read Heartless Hunter, you have to go and pick it up. It's such a fun time. I also liked Lady of Darkness, and I am interested to continue on with that series, so let me know if you like want my thoughts and feelings on the rest of the books. Maybe I'll read those over on Patreon. I'm not entirely sure, but let me know in the comments down below if you've read these, what your thoughts and feelings are, obviously. Also let me know what Romantasy books you think I need to check out, because I'm obviously not very well versed in the genre. I just picked up the most buzzy things that I had heard about, but I am obviously very open to reading and learning about stuff that like kind of flies under the radar but is like really, really solid. So thanks for watching those. I had a fun time with it despite it being kind of a chaotic ride. Thanks for watching this video. I love y'all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.